Okay, we're back at it again. Time to finish the rest of Ash's teams, and boy howdy am I glad I made this a two-parter. These last 4 teams were probably the hardest to create, so it might take a minute to justify my reasoning. I got over 20 Pokemon to draw for this, so let's get the show on the road. Let's get started with Sinnoh. There's a big problem I had when assembling this list, but let's get the easiest team members out of the way. First up is Roserade. Roserade? Am I serious? Yes I am. Roserade doesn't look like an Ashmon. It's a Drewmon. A Nandomon. An Ashmon? No. I understand you, dear viewer, and I understand your skepticism. However, take Roserade and give it Oshawott personality. A lot more fitting now, isn't it? Take this little Budew and make them this boastful, stubborn, attention-seeking, dopey little guy. That's what I imagine as a Roserade. I use Goofy a lot when describing certain Pokemon. For Roserade, though, I'd use Dumbass. Affectionately. If you want a better way to picture its personality, just take the Tuxedo Mask meme. Yeah, basically that. Roserade fits in as an early catch in Budew and fills that grass-type role. I think his personality will help set up Ash and Paul's rivalry, as Paul would see it and think it's a useless Pokemon, which pisses Ash off. He'll be caught before they meet, like Ash's Starly, which helps set up the rivalry. Roserade will know the moves Energy Ball, Sludge Bomb, Leaf Storm, and Poison Jab. And with that Energy Ball, he can do the same trick Turtwig did. Next up is a surprise pick in Rampardos. This is probably a good time to mention I'm extremely limited on options in Sinnoh. Actually, that applies to the rest of these regions, especially in comparison to the first 3. Also, for all you people who prefer Ash to have some unevolved Pokemon on his team, while I have it be a Rampardos, I think it could easily be a Cranidos as well. When it comes to Ash having unevolved team members, I follow a simple formula. Does their gimmick still work if they evolve? For example, Oshawott's personality still works as a Dewott, but not a Samurott. Sceptile's persona works great and gets better with each evolution. Squirtle should never evolve though, because his gimmick is being part of the Squirtle squad. See what I mean? So be it Cranidos or Rampardos, I use Rampardos because what I got still works either way. And I lean more towards actually evolving your Pokemon, for story and growth reasons. I'm biased, I admit it. Anyways, I think a hyperactive headbutting Cranidos fits Ash like a glove. You'd get it in Orberg and it would be part of the Pokemon that escapes thanks to Team Rocket. He'd be the one to capture it and it wouldn't want to leave his side. Maybe it was brought back alongside Rorix so they get a brotherly bond thing going on. Seeing Ash fight would inspire it to join him after the gym battle. And maybe seeing Rorix Cranidos evolve makes it want to grow stronger like it as well. Rampardos will know the moves Head Smash, Zen Headbutt, Stone Edge, and Ice Beam. By the way, I gave it Ice Beam to mirror Rorix knowing Flamethrower. Anyways, next up is the only water type that Ash can use, Gastrodon. I'll say it's West Gastrodon because Paul caught the EC version. I have no real explanation for this one. Buizel is literally the perfect Sinnoh water type for Ash, and I can't use him. The only other water types are Empoleon, Mantike, Luminion, and Gastrodon. If you think any of the first 3 work for Ash, I want you to know you're lying to yourself. I mean, I guess Empoleon could work, but Sinnoh had enough Piplup representation. So we got a Gastrodon. It's something you can catch early enough and doesn't fit his usual fighting style. I think it might even be worse for it because I can't imagine Gastrodon moving in battle at all, so that might be cool to see Ash to adapt to. If I had to pin a personality, it would definitely be the laid-back type. Not lazy, but enjoying a good chill-out session. It does love the fight though, because otherwise, why join Ash's team? Side note, I didn't have Ash catch Apom here, and since no Buizel, I've got no idea what Ash would trade Dawn for here. I'll have a better idea when I make Dawn's team in the next video. Gastrodon will know the moves Water Pulse, Mud Bomb, Brine, and Recover. I've got a nice trend of giving Ash Ghost types, so why stop now? Ash's next pick is Drifblim. I think he'll catch it either before Maylene or after Fantina. Or he could even get it in the Valley Windworks like in the game. It'll be kind of a listless Pokemon, not really showing much emotion, kinda like Krogunk. There's not much appearing on the surface, but there's a lot boiling underneath it. I've got no real defense here, it was just a good option compared to the remaining few. Also, it fits Ash's battle style. I hate giving him too many heavy, tanky Pokemon, which you'll see a lot in my honorable mentions. There's kind of the exception in Gastrodon, but I think he should always have one Pokemon that doesn't fit his usual battle style, but the rest should be pretty on point. Drifblim will know the moves Ominous Wind, Gust, Gyro Ball, and Psychic. And the crux of my Sinnoh problems. As you know, I try and relate these Pokemon teams to the anime the best way I can. Ash catches a temperamental Magmar instead of a Charizard. He has an over-affectionate Espeon instead of a Bayleaf. I'm speaking really fast. However, there isn't a good Chimchar replacement mon. The only one that could ever work is Lucario. And oh gee, he got one. Thanks, Journeys. So now I'm stuck in a rut. I could say fuck it and not include it, but I'm a good writer, damn it. I can make a solution. And here it is. Ash will not be catching a 6th Sinnohmon. I know, blasphemy, but hear me out. Instead, he'll be contacted by Professor Oak about his Magmar. Apparently, he's depressed. After fighting Articuno and winning, his ego was through the roof. He started picking fights with other Pokemon Ash caught on the ranch. Only problem is, those Pokemon are Rhydon, Swampert, Camerupt, and Salamence. And he's cocky and at a type disadvantage, so he gets crushed. Remember, there was no Magmar Valley that we left him at to train, so he's probably weaker than Charizard was in the anime. I even imagine with the Articuno fight, he kind of pulled it off barely through the skin of his teeth. Still Still a win though. So Ash is going to take his Magmar probably right before the Hearthstone battle tournament and help bring him back into fighting spirit. He'll be weak at first because he's out of it and get knocked around. Paul's Elekid evolves in the tournament while battling with him, and that's going to spark their rivalry. Also at this point, Paul's shown off Pokemon he's trained before and caught in other regions. This is his first introduction to one of Ash's from a different region, so you just know he's going to be disrespecting him about it. Electabuzz showing him up in the tournament is really going to be the breaking point that's going to get Magmar to get back in fighting spirit. He'll keep fighting alongside the Sinnoh squad and evolve into Magmortar and be Ash's 6th spawn for Sinnoh. And for fun, I'll say Ash will rotate in Misdreavus and Rhydon, maybe for a story arc where they'll evolve as well, just so it all comes full circle as well. That is also something we can say for Journeys though. Magmortar will know the moves Flamethrower, Rock Tomb, Thunder Punch, and Overheat. I did really want to give him Lava Plume, but this is kind of a really solid 4-move set. And boom! Electivire vs Magmortar, that's going to be our rivalry. However, that just raises the question, why not just bring Magmar over in the beginning like Apom? Well, because Magmar would wipe the floor with just about everything in his path. He beat an Articuno. These early gyms are not going to be hard for him, so I set up this depression arc to nerf him. Honorable mentions are Hippowdon and Abomasnow. Ash had episodes where he could have cut both their pre-evolutions, so I considered them. If I didn't come up with this Rose Raid thing, I would have used Abomasnow, but frankly both are too slow and bulky to include. Oh, and if I did have Ash catch a 6 team member, I would have split the difference between these two and chosen Mamoswine, who also would have been the ace of the region. On to Unova! Unova is the exception to my not enough Pokemon rule. In fact, I have the most honorable mentions on this list in this region. I won't have as many clear story moments here as I repressed most of the Unova anime because why wouldn't I? Still, I'll do my best. If it were up to me, I'd rewrite this entire part of the anime. Am I being harsh? Probably, but in fairness, I remember more of the bad parts than the good ones. Let's get started with the first pick in Stoutland. Stoutland is the first early route Pokemon I see Ash getting. I think it works really well with dog Pokemon, and come on people, Stoutland is the GOAT! He's strong, he's fast, and he hits like a truck. He'll be caught at the start of Ash's journey and be a pivotal member in the first and second gyms. I imagine him as the team leader in a weird way, or maybe a team mom. He's a loyal dog and he's trying to keep everyone from getting into trouble. Stoutland will know the moves Retaliate, Work Up, Crunch, and Fire Fang. Yes, that Fire Fang is a reference to the old Stoutland from Alola. Next is a universally acknowledged pick for once and not one of my I'm not like other Poketuber choices. We have Darmanitan. Do I need to list the reasons why Darmanitan is a good Ashmon? It fits his fighting style. It has a great personality from its design alone. It's a rambunctious, fiery fighter who loves when battles get tough. I definitely would make it have Zen mode, because why have Pokemon with unique abilities and not use them? Darmanitan is a good-natured guy that accidentally ends up breaking stuff due to his strength. He's a lot better destroying than creating, that's for sure. I see Ash meeting him before or after Berg's Gym as a Darumaka. I imagine that something is going down with all these Zen mode Darmanitan outside the Relic Castle. Maybe they're there to hide the deeper layers of the castle. That's why they're all in their sealed forms permanently. They have to use their max power to keep whatever's inside hidden. Team Plasma's mucking about, so Ash and friends go and save it. That's just off the top of the head, though. Darmanitan will know the moves Superpower, Psychic, Flare Blitz, and Overheat. Yeah, when I said destructive Pokemon, I meant it. Okay, now we're back to the Dolly's not going to pick the universally agreed upon choices and going for the surprise pick in Whimsicott. Whimsicott is just a fascinating Pokemon all around for me. Its ability to be extremely fast and use moves like Tailwind and Hurricane is awesome. As someone who loves grass types, this was always cool to me. I don't have a lot of reasons to pick it other than its design alone oozes personality. I think it will be the more airheaded member of Ash's team. Of all of them, Whimsicott is definitely getting in the most trouble, mostly due to circumstance and not realizing that everyone else can't escape the danger as quickly as them. Whimsicott will know the moves Hurricane, Cotton Spore, Solar Beam, and Energy Ball. Now we're on to Ash's water type of the region, and I've decided on Caracosta. I was initially hesitant to give Ash another Fossilmon, but similar to Gastron, he was the best choice for the current situation. Caracosta would be a Pokemon that was already restored. I think Ash would catch it as a Tortuga and have some problems with it. It wouldn't like to listen much and prefer to do its own things. It's not because Ash isn't a skilled enough trainer like with Magmar. I think Caracosta is just a stubborn, bull-headed Pokemon in general. However, Ash is able to mold it into a strong fighter for him. I think the one that also helps get through to him is Whimsicott itself. Whimsicott sort of acts as the binding agent of the team. No one can hate Whimsicott. Also, Ash has caught a lot of turtle Pokemon in the past, so Caracosta seems like a good fit in that regard. It would know the moves Hydro Pump, Shell Smash, Aqua Jet, and Ancient Power. There might be better moves for it, but I at least like the first three. Ancient Power is a little bit more negotiable. Next is the final Pokemon and the ace of the region. Also, it's a Pokemon I have an actual story idea for. It's Escavalier. Insane, I know. This one was a close pick. It was either Escavalier or Scolipede, and Escavalier just came out a bit more on top. Though if I did pick Scolipede, I probably wouldn't have made it the ace of the region. Though that would have been a fascinating idea. Thoughts for later. Escavalier would be a knightly Pokemon that is honorable and defends the weak. In my mind, Escavalier would be a Carablast that dreams of being a knight, like the Swords of Justice. You could have an arc tying them into the anime here. Maybe before evolving, Carablast meets all three and learns something new from them. Not attacks, but morals and codes to live by. With each meeting, he does something to prove himself to them, gaining their favor and helping them declare him a proper knight. Eventually, he'll meet a Shelmet, I think owned by Bianca, and they'll both evolve, now ready to defend the realm. With a storyline like this, I think he's earned his spot as Ash's Unova ace. Escavalier would know the moves Quick Guard, X Scissor, Iron Head, and Giga Impact. I'm especially proud of the idea for Quick Guard, as it would be a move he can use to defend his allies and those around him. We have honorable mentions out the wazoo! Jellicent, Mienshao, Excadrill, Scolipede, and Zoroark. Jellicent was kind of another Gastron situation where I wanted to give Ash a water type, but Seismitoad is literally the best option for Ash in this region. Kirakoster earned himself onto the list at the last minute, otherwise he'd be right here with Jellicent. Mienshao was an out there pick I liked, but I found my ideas for it were too similar to Hitmontop's story, and I didn't really have much going for it. Scolipede is the Beedrill to Levani's Butterfree, so I thought it'd be fun to give Ash one. Excadrill I highly considered, even thinking he could be Ash's ace of the region, but I thought the other Pokemon around proved to be better. It wasn't even the fact that Iris had one, I think Escavalier covers what Excadrill does, but a lot better. Zoroark was a hard one, as I initially had it as the ace and Ash's final member. It was similar to Lucario in my book as that two-stage Pokemon with unique abilities, it had its own movie, but it was just too dark for my taste. Zorua would feel better at this point, but I didn't want to risk a Pokemon on this list that was just not fitting well. Zora would feel better, but at that point, I didn't think I want to risk a Pokemon on this list that was this out there. Nothing takes me out of these lists like a pick that really doesn't fit or is just crazy. I mean, I'm not one to talk, but you guys know the parameters of this list. I have a lot of those kind of picks and more coming up now. Now we're on to Kalos. Alright, if I'm being honest here, I got 5 new Pokemon here out of just crossing off the list of Pokemon Ash didn't work well with or didn't already catch. That left like 10 Pokemon. That's an exaggeration, but only a little bit, which is nutty. The first pick is one I think people saw coming. If he's not going to get Greninja, he's got to get Chesnaught. Alright, let's get this situation squared away. I don't think Ash Chesnaught works as well as Ash Greninja. Ash's natural fighting style is like that of Pikachu, which Greninja fits. Chesnaught is a powerful tank, which just isn't Ash. So at first I didn't want to make Ash have an Ash Chesnaught and have the story be of a normal Mega Evolution. However, any Mega Pokemon I give Ash, he's either caught them already in the original anime, or already has them in my list. Of his teams, Houndoom, Swampert, Sableye, Camerupt, and Salamence can Mega Evolve. Jesus, I didn't realize how many of his home team can have Megas, that's nutty. That's all cool. I don't want to make Ash start off in the region with these super powerful Pokemon though. It'd make the battles way too easy, or make the old Pokemon look like chumps getting taken down by Surskits and Tyrants. So I went against all odds and decided, fuck it, we'll go Ash Chestnut. Then I realized there was no art of that, and I was an artist. Fuck, I had to draw it, because now it's important, damn it. Here's the form I came up with. Might be good, might be shit, but I tried my best to emulate Ash Greninja. The probably original thing I took away was I added the little face plates on him. I thought it looked cool. I imagine he'll have this overgrow aura around him like Greninja's Water Tornado. Rather than having the Water Shuriken on his back, he's going to have really green glowy spikes that he's going to have a lot better control over. His story would be relatively the same as Greninja, so I don't think I need to cover that much, since I'd make him have the same personality as well. Maybe by being around all those ninjas like Greninja was, he'll be inspired to grow faster like Ash's Turtwig did. I mean, if that Turtwig can be speedy, I think a Chestnut can. Chestnut will know the moves Needle Arm, Pin Missile, Spiky Shield, and Hammer Arm. I wish I could give him more moves, but I settled on these 4. Oh, and his Water Shuriken equivalent will be his Spiky Shield that he can either throw or shoot the spikes off of like heat-seeking missiles, or maybe he can shoot a beam out of it like Gallantmon and Digimon. Whatever fits best. Now that that is settled, we have a much calmer time. For pick 2, I'm going with Meowstic Male. I like parallels. I also like Ash's companions catching Pokemon. Serena is someone who didn't catch enough Pokemon in my opinion. So in my initial idea for her team, I thought Meowstic Female would be an obvious choice. That inspired me to give Ash the male version. I imagine a scene of both them catching the same Pokemon, which you just know Serena would love. Probably Ash catches it first, and then Serena wants to catch one to kind of match Ash. In group battles, both will work well together, and they kind of signify the bond between Serena and Ash. Meowstic would be a more reserved and quiet team member. He's not shy, he just thinks before he talks. With so many big personalities on the team, he might get talked over a lot though. Usually lets Serena's Meowstic take the lead on a lot. I like the Meowsticks being an opposite reflection of the trainer. Serena's Meowstic obviously likes Ash's, but is more direct and in your face about it. Ash's Meowstic is able to acknowledge it, but sort of keeps everything a little bit more bottled up, unlike Ash, who's completely oblivious to Serena's feelings. For moves, Meowstic will know the moves Protect, Psyshock, Charge Beam, and Sucker Punch. I was initially going to give him Reflect and Light Screen, but I think Protect works as a combo of the two, rather than wasting 2 move slots on them both. I want to give him more support moves, but he's going to be mostly in single battles, so I had to account for that. But I still gave him the protection regardless. Also, in a rare instance, I'll give out his ability, which will be Keen Eye. Olympia could use it to redirect attacks, so I want his Meowstic to do the same. Next up is the Lion King that is Pyroar. In the show, Ash helped the Litleo gain independence. I think it would choose to follow him and join his team. That gives Ash a powerful fire type on his side. Pyroar is a Pokemon that would follow the beat of his own drum. He'd probably butt heads with Chesnaught a lot, as Chesnaught is kind of the de facto leader of the Kalos team. Pyroar wants to do his own thing and try to make others follow his lead, but that doesn't really go anywhere for him. He's not a great leader, but he's definitely great at crowd control with the moves he has. Speaking of which, he'll know the moves Flamethrower, Noble Roar, Hyper Beam, and Overheat. The next two choices were a bit harder to make. Whenever I make Ash teams, I try to stick loosely to a formula of giving him a Water, Grass, and Fire type, that sort of starter core. If not all three, at least two of them. So we have our Fire and Grass type, which only leaves a Water type. That's why our next pick is Clawitzer. I didn't think much of this guy until I saw Sawyer battle with him. Seeing that made me wish we had more of him in the show because he's just such a unique Pokemon. Then Ash tried to catch a Clauncher in Journeys, which gave me this idea. It would take a Pokemon away from his rival, but giving Sawyer a new team is considerably easier on my end than trying to find a new one for Ash now. Clauncher would get fished up by Ash and be a crabby guy. He'll always be pinching things for a gag until he evolves and gets that Claw Cannon. He'll be a solid battler on Ash's team, being able to outrange and damage his opponents. If they get too close, he can move using Aqua Jet. It's sort of like the immobile team member we've seen in Quagsire, Gastrodon, and Camerupt, but this one can actually move. Clawitzer will know the moves Aqua Jet, Aura Sphere, Water Pulse, and Dragon Pulse. And in a rare instance like Meowstic, his ability will be Mega Launcher. Our final team member is a weird one. Since Johto's team, I've always wanted to show off the new gen's mechanics through Ash's team, cause why wouldn't you? Now we're not doing Mega Evolution, but Gen 6 did introduce something else, the Fairy type. We only have 4 options and 3 of them are hell no. That leaves Slurpuff. Yes, I'm taking another Pokemon away from Sawyer. I'll do him justice in the Rivals video. He is one of Ash's best after all, easily top 5 rivals. However, Slurpuff is the only one I can imagine being on Ash's team. She'll fill that always necessary comic relief role. It is ironic that Ash has such a stoic team this time around. I didn't even realize it till I got to Slurpuff. That's why Slurpuff will be the ray of comedy and joy that it really needs. In a weird way, she'll be the glue that holds them all together, similar to Whimsicott, another fairy type Ash caught. Despite her comedy, she'll be a heavy hitter, especially with the moves I'm giving her. Play Rough, Energy Ball, Fairy Wind, and Endeavor. There's no real honorable mentions here. Literally the only ones I ever considered were Trevenant and Go-Goat, but they overlap with Chesnaught, and I hate doubling up on types like that. Unless you're a gym leader with a type speciality, but I'll explore more of that in the Companions video that's coming up next. That's it for Unova, we're on to Alola. Now we're on to the final region and one of Ash's most important in Alola. This team was the hardest to make because this is his champion team. How do I replace Pokemon like Lycanroc, Melmetal, Incineroar, Naganadel, and the god Rowlet? Well, like this. Ash's first mon in Alola is going to be Araquanid. Okay, there are a lot of Pokemon trainers in Alola with Pokemon that are important to them, so that left me with not a lot of options. But in this case, Araquanid seems like the best option. It's a powerful water bug type, and I can see it starting off as not the greatest. Similar to Gligar, I don't think it will get its bearings until it finally evolves, which will probably be around Olivia's trial or something, where he'll learn the move Liquidation. Even if Dupatter wasn't the best fire, using him against the Rock Kahuna is probably the best option. I did consider Golisopod as it would fit the Gliscor story better, but it's such an essential Pokemon to Guzma, I couldn't take it. Personality-wise, I think it would be similar to Gliscor. As a Dupatter, it would be emotional and a crybaby. Maybe its hurdle is that it's terrified of the water. Upon evolving, its confidence will go up while still retaining that kooky personality. Araquanid would know the moves Liquidation, Bubble Beam, Spiderweb, and Lunge. Next up is a surprise choice, and that is Salazzle. Yes, after explaining why I didn't choose Golisopod, I immediately contradict myself by choosing Plumeria's ace Pokemon. I did this for a few reasons. Plumeria doesn't appear enough in the anime for me to care, nor is she a major character there, unlike Guzma. Golisopod also has a lot of deeper connections to Guzma, straight down to his ability, which makes me reluctant to give Ash one. If you want to differentiate between the two, make Plumeria's Salazzle shiny. But back to the actual reasoning and not defending my hypocritical statements. Salazzle does not look like it fits, especially on an Ash team. However, like Roserade, I think story and personality help shape what makes a great Ash Pokemon. I mentioned before, but Gliscor is a Pokemon I never thought I'd see Ash get until he was actually on the team. I chose Salazzle because I could actually see a story of it not being strong enough to form its own harem as a Salandit. It will be forced out or kicked around by stronger Salandit who evolve into Salazzle, leaving it alone. It would live like this until Ash finds it. It starts off attacking and hating him, but the kindness of Ash breaks through because at the end of the day, she was just lonely. I know it's not as tragic as Incineroar's story, who is the obvious much better pick in this scenario, but with the right direction, you can make it sad. Hell, the only person she could have liked is this old Stoutland that eventually passes. Since she is the Incineroar replacement, mixing their stories together works well. Ash's interactions during that time are what bring her over to the team. With Ash by her side, she would become a strong, reliable battler, evolving into the Salazzle she was meant to be. Salazzle would know the moves Flamethrower, Dragon Pulse, Sludge Wave, and Toxic. Next up is a Pokemon I consider to be one that represents Alola very well. That is Palosand. Ash spends so much time at the beach, it makes sense he runs into a Sandygast while training. I don't think it would join Ash right away. Maybe it helps him train and plays with him whenever he comes by the beach. However, eventually he'll end up catching it, which will help it evolve into Palosand. Palosand would be massive, similar to the one in the anime, or it can turn itself that big whenever it wants. Imagine fighting a Dynamax Pokemon with just a massive Palosand. It would love its new family and be extremely protective against outsiders. It is literally the castle that protects them. Palosand would know the moves Earth Power, Shadow Ball, Shore Up, and Giga Drain. We're taking this in a new direction, as I'm not just going to reveal one, but the next two Pokemon. Mostly because I have a similar explanation for both. For Ash's final two Alola Pokemon, it's going to be Kartana and Marshadow. I know your minds are blown right now, but let me explain. Let me explain has to be one of the most repeated phrases in these videos. Like I've stated before, I want to match Pokemon that Ash has to help hit the same story beats, and you know what Ash caught? A Mythical and an Ultra Beast. Now, I think Kartana and Marshadow fit that the best. Kartana is really the only Ultra Beast I see working on Ash's team, and it probably would stick around, unlike Naganadale. And I say that because I think part of its story would be being alone and then finding the family that is the Alola team. Like, the other Ultra Beasts are great, but they just don't fit Ash like Kartana. Kartana just wants to cut things. I can respect that. With Ash by his side, he can probably channel that energy into something more. Maybe he's even shown different hobbies to help channel his energy, like using his blades to cut out a sculpture or make origami. I'm just throwing things out here, but you get the idea. Marshadow, I can easily see it following Ash all throughout the series since episode 1. In the anime and movies, it never got a proper shine, but this little guy has so much potential. Ash trains and plays a lot, so I can see Marshadow imitating him from afar. Eventually, Ash will find it and bring it to the light where it will join his family. It even has an exclusive Z move Ash could use. Kartana will know the moves Leaf Blade, Air Slash, Sacred Sword, and Smart Strike. Marshadow will know the moves Shadow Sneak, Counter, Spectral Thief, and Close Combat. Side note, for the ace of the region, I'd honestly make it Palosand. I know Lycanroc was Ash's ace because of his form and his Z move, but everyone else doesn't really feel right. It's weird to have the Mythical or Ultra Beast be Ash's ace because it's too easy. They're powerful by default. Araquanid is definitely not it. Salazzle is the only real contender, but I have reasons for why she's not going to be it. And we are done. Okay, one bonus segment. Ash has to fight Leon in this world, and I'm not making a Journeys, Galar, or Paldea team for him. One, because I don't think he should have a Journeys team and instead use all his Pokemon. I love them, but watching Ash use his old Pokemon would have been so much better and more satisfying. We saw the last episodes of Journeys really exemplify that. 2, there's no point in me making a Paldea or Galar team because Ash never had them. The whole point of this list is to put a restriction on me that forces me to be different from other people's teams, and that doesn't work unless he's made a team. I tried, but they were just the same as others, so I scrapped them. Moving on to what is Ash's ultimate team versus Leon in this world. Leon's team will be different this time around, as he is a rival, and I'm going to do the Rivals team redone video, so I'll reveal it then. Ash's ultimate team for my world is Pikachu, Magmortar, Mega Swampert, Escavalier, Chesnaught, and Palosand. A weird team for sure, but I'll explain. Technically, Magmortar was Ash's ace of Sinnoh because of the Paul story. Johto never really had an ace in the original anime, as Charizard was still around by then. In my little world here, Espeon or Houndoom is his Johto ace, but if I included them, then I'd have to leave some of the other Pokemon out on this list out, and they are much more important. Having an Alola Pokemon, i.e. one from his championship team, and a Kalos Pokemon in his Ash Chesnaught is much more necessary than anything from Johto or Sinnoh. This is the reason I didn't make Salazzle the ace. I didn't want to double up on fire types for Ash here, as Palosand really helps round out the team better type-wise, and I think this is a powerhouse of a team. I know he has other mons like Rhyperior or Salamence that could/should be here, but I'm doing this based off the aces I've given him, not the best options. Now, we can't have all 3 gimmicks in here with a specialized thing, but I did slide in Mega Evolution for Swampert. For his Z-moves and Gigantamax Pokemon, Pikachu does fit the criteria for both, but I think he'd spread those abilities around rather than just having them constrained to one Pokemon. That would make Ash a more strategic player and less predictable. Part of Journeys could be helping these aces learn things like fighting while Dynamaxed or using Z-moves. And we're finally done here. How did I do? Do you disagree or love what I've done? Regardless, next up we'll be exploring Ash's companions next, and that video will only be one part. I've got much less to say on my choices there, or at least not as long of explanations. Subscribe to keep updated, and when that happens, I'll see you guys next time.